are live. So we're gonna.
Oh shit.
Well, yeah, I think we're live. I think we did it, Schmitty. I think we got it down. It took how many years?
Great.
How many years of college are you at right now? What are you?
I'm in my
Tech, your fifth year? Are you in your fifth year?
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So between us right now, we have a combination of about 12 or 13 years of college, and that just took us a long time.
That's insane. Yeah. Yeah, we're old though. We're old.
We're getting old. How old are you now? I'm gonna wait for the audience to come in because we are live. So, but how old are you now?
I'm 23.
Oh my God, man! You know
I
you
met you, get that. I met you when I was 17.
that was such a long time ago, dude. Wait, I've been doing this for 6 years now. It's been that
Yeah.
long.
Yeah, I'm getting wrinkles.
I don't want to hear anything about wrinkles. Okay, I was born with them. I came out like a fucking old saggy potato. Yeah. What's going on, chat? How are you all doing? I am currently with Schmitty and very excited to have him here. And the big thing is that we're gonna have an interview. I gave Schmitty the option of seeing the questions and practicing it beforehand, and he said no. And Schmitty, really appreciate that's ballsy.
Oh yeah, of course.
First and foremost, how have you been?
I've been fine. Stressed about IDV, but I've been fine. I've been traveling, and it's nice to see the world. But yeah, I've been fine.
Yeah, what's going on? You're in med school. You're obviously still running things with Rival, as you guys call it, and then also you're in Europe right now.
Right now, I'm in Europe. Yeah.
It's a busy schedule, Schmitty.
Yes.
All right, so we're gonna get right into some of the questions. The first question I have, and this is all right, is were there any complications getting to the tournament? Because that was always interesting to go through when we were a team.
Getting there, no. Getting like physically there, no, no complications. When we recruit players now, the number one thing is can you get there? Ever since past, and I don't want to deal with that anymore. So the number one thing is can you get there? Like for example, one of our old players, Green, probably the best player in NA. He couldn't travel, so unfortunately we did have to part ways with Green. So this time, no trouble getting there.
Yeah, we had that issue too with Call Me Duty back in the day as well.
Yup. Yeah.
All right, so big question: why did you change names? You
Yeah.
went from B4U, a name that I love and admire, and now you are called Rival. What was the process of that?
Okay, so this is not a lie. Ever since you left, my goal has been to make NA better. I tell everyone that if you go on all my streams, I try to live through you. You tried so hard for NA, and I felt like when you left, there wasn't enough done. So myself and the team was able to get two teams to COA. We were able to get two IVTs. We were able to get recognition. And this past summer, we were given the opportunity to be the first non-Japanese China team to be professional. So NA would have the first professional team outside of China and Japan. And with that meant we could get IVS. So it'd be the first time NA would be able to travel to IVS. If we were not sponsored, we wouldn't have went to IVS. So we saw it as an opportunity, one, the first ever professional team outside of those two regions, and two, the first time we will get IVS to be able to go there. And we thought that was huge for NA, especially since the last COA we did very well and we got a lot of support from that. So we thought this opportunity is too good to pass up, even if it means we're changing our name and all that.
So first of all, you said some nice things about me. I appreciate all that. That's very kind of you. So you changed your name to Rival to increase sponsorship opportunities, which therefore increase the ability to participate in more tournaments historically that were unavailable to NAEU. Is that a good summary of
Yeah.
all that?
Yes, and if more teams in NA do get sponsored, there is another one that got sponsored. So now we have 2 teams in NA that got sponsored. If we get 4 more, we will have a pro league. So that is what we're aiming for.
So if I were to hypothetically sponsor a team and call them the Persuabies, we're one step
Technically, yeah. Technically, if it gets us a pro league, yeah.
Yeah. All right. All right. So if I sponsor a team, all right, I see where we're going. So how's the relationship with those who are running Rival? How's that partnership been since you just finished the first tournament? We'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, they're wonderful. They actually two of the managers flew to meet us. They stayed with the hotel with us. They went to every match. They went to all of our interviews. They were very nice, lovely people. Couldn't have asked for a better welcoming from them. And then if we do get into COA, knock on wood, we still have a lot of work to do. We are going to meet more of the staff and more of them. So I look forward to that.
What did Rival say about your performance after? And we'll get, like I said, back into the tournament stuff. But I'm very interested in this Rival stuff.
They were like, we're with you in the lows, so we can enjoy the highs. So COA will be a high, and I really appreciated that because, to be honest, a lot of people had a lot of high expectations for us, especially since COA. We did very well in COA, so the fact that I was afraid, I'm gonna be honest, I was afraid to message after we lost, and the message they sent was so like refreshing. It like made me not worry. So that was very good. And the day after we lost, they actually brought us out to dinner and was like, I can't wait for COA. You guys are gonna actually slam. So I was excited, and it made me feel refreshed.
Well, that genuinely makes me happy. You said that you guys did well in COA, right? So before we get into the recent tournament, let's go back for a second. So what, in your opinion, made you all stand out in the last COA?
Um, Last COA we should have beaten 2 professional teams. We were actually our survivors were considered a top 6 survivor team in COA. And a top 3 Sangria team. We were the only team that didn't lose to Sangria up until the last match. That didn't matter. And versus someone like Scars, if Sprinter would have done better, which is very rare for Sprinter not to do well, we would have beaten them. And that was globally recognized. And then the first match, Sprinter did very well versus China, and so much so that he was getting China offers. So China teams offered him a spot on their roster. So the combination of Sprinter doing fantastic and our survivors doing fantastic in the worst bracket of COA was very good. We got 13th and only top 12 moved on. If we had any other bracket, we move on. Now I can't say that because of course results, but we also scrimmed a lot. We scrimmed 2 pro teams, we beat them both, and we scrimmed all the non-professional teams and we beat them all. So during COA we were making some noise, and it was very refreshing to see, and finally our work was showing and paying off.
Right. So you guys did very well on COA. You accept the sponsorship through Rival, and now there's some words that are out there saying that is the reason why you all were invited to this recent tournament. That we may not have even have gone to this tournament if you did not accept the Rival sponsorship. So you accepted the Rival sponsorship, and you get accepted into this new tournament. All right.
Yes.
And so my question for you is: did you have a game plan going into this tournament, and did you stick with it, or did you make last-minute adjustments prior to your first match?
Yeah, so we got the bracket draw, and we got the hardest bracket of all time. And again, that's not an excuse. We have to play what we're given. It's just we played the number one China team, the number one Japan team, and the number two China team all in the same bracket. Whereas the other four teams that we would have beaten were in the other bracket. It's just unfortunate. Now, um, a lot of people saw Paul Blum's not playing. Unfortunately, we only practiced 2 weeks prior to IVS. We only had 2 weeks of practice. Paul was not able to show up to practice for a good bit of time. So in that time, we scrambled and had to find a new player, and that was Yin Ling. Um, Thankfully, he came, and we were able to start practicing. And then Paul then came back, but it was only 2 weeks before the tournament. So ultimately, we only got about 2 weeks of practice. So we were very strong in IVT. Unfortunately, Paul had to leave for a little bit. We weren't able to practice for a month, and then 2 weeks before the tournament, we were able to practice. So not everything went according to plan. We had to change strategy for Yin Ling and all that.
How far, if I may ask, how far in advance did you know about this tournament?
Month?
About a month? Okay. And you said that you only had about 2 weeks of practice. Is that correct?
Yeah, about give or take.
Okay. So what happened to the first 2 weeks? Right? If you had 4 weeks.
We didn't have a fourth survivor.
Okay. So quite literally as an entire team, you didn't have the ability to practice.
Literally, yeah.
Okay.
In that time, we were looking for a fourth survivor to play with, and we were just reviewing film, studying the teams that we were potentially going to play.
When was KOA? When did that finish?
KOA was April, May.
Right.
So like it finished at the end of April, early May.
So if you guys were lacking after Mistaken Green had to leave, and you're in a position where you only have 4 survivors, is it reasonable to suggest that when Paul Blums wasn't able to play, I can't imagine only having 4 survivors and allowing that to happen as a coach, right? So is there some accountability on rivals then where you should have prepared for that?
That's a really good question. So Paul's absence was unexpected, and on the roster we did have Yin Ling. However, Yin Ling agreed to play for KOA, not IVT IVS. So our backup survivor that was prepared for this was only agreeing for KOA. So when Paul unexpectedly left, which we've never had to deal with before, which in hindsight we should have been prepared for anything, um, it was just unfortunate. So Yin Ling coming to play when he did was very fortunate because it could have been even worse if he couldn't, because he told us he couldn't. So we had to really beg him to come, and we couldn't have any roster changes. So it was either Yin Ling, Paul, or no one, and Paul couldn't obviously at the time. So
Okay.
but yeah, that's something we should have accounted for. We didn't anticipate it, especially with how well we did in IVT.
Because the big thing too is that that's something historically that we've always had to prepare for with B4U. I mean, we've always, and I know you're called rival. I'm talking about B4U for a second.
I
We
know.
Okay.
Don't
We've always had to account for this. You know, when Roxon had to step down as the number 1 hunter because Duty was outperforming him, we were prepared for that because we prepared Duty for months. Same thing with Doc Man when I had to substitute him out for the up-and-coming players. Sprinter was a 3rd string for me at one point, never even touched Dream Witch, and we were preparing him.
That's insane.
I know, he never even touched Dream Witch, right? And I had him as our 3rd string hunter preparing, and Duty had to step out. KKZ, who was our 2nd hunter, retired. And so if we didn't prepare Sprinter as a 3rd string maybe 6 months prior, we wouldn't even have been able to compete. So one of the things about B4U historically was our ability to always plan for the unexpected, especially with COVID when we were going through all of the passport stuff and I was sending all the information. I offered to pay all the money for the passport stuff if we couldn't get to it in time. So when I hear about this, what I look at it is that with Koa in April and May, Mistaken Green was no longer on the team, and about 3 months later, you still are gambling with only 4 survivors because there's so many things that can happen. So I hope you know that my question comes with a lot of it comes with sympathy and respect. That's why I was asking it. Where it's like at the end of the day, you have to take accountability. You guys, if you have to prepare for the uncertainty. That's what separated us from many other teams, right? So I'm happy to hear that you're looking at this and saying we should have prepared in a different manner. And so my question is are you doing that now?
Yes, we're taking every step to prepare for Koa. Um, for some members, this is going to be the last tournament. I don't know who's going to leave, who's going to stay. So we really want this to be the tournament that we've been fighting for a while. And so we're going to take every step. We're going to prepare every way possible to make Koa a tournament that NA can be proud of. That we can say we did our best and we showed how strong NA can be. Because IVS just was not that tournament, unfortunately.
So you did a good job explaining the situation with Paul Bloom's not being able to practice and all that. Um, this bracket thing, if I recall correctly, I've missed a few codes, but I almost feel like NAEU historically is always in the toughest bracket. I can't.
We've gotten the worst bracket for 5 years in a row.
I think that's verified too. I think that's verified.
It is, and it's a joke. China casters say whoever gets our team in their bracket wins Koa, because the last 4 years, 3 Koa teams in our bracket have won Koa, and the year they didn't win Koa, they got third place. And the year they didn't win Koa, the teams that did get it were third place, fourth place, and sixth place. So all top 6 teams. And then in IVS, lo and behold, first place and second place were in our bracket. So everyone's saying rigged. I don't know. I can't say. It's just mathematically impossible for us to get the worst bracket every time, and I hate saying that because we have to. If we want to be the best, we have to win every team. Like, it doesn't matter what bracket we're given. It's just improbable what brackets we're getting. So yeah, that's a good point.
I think it can be reasonable to say that, because if you remember, what was it, Code 3 or 4? I can't remember. I'm getting old, man. I actually have to take notes. I'm taking notes on a cardboard box.
I see.
Yeah, I'm in the sticky note generation of my life now. 30s hit different, man. I gotta write stuff down, and yeah. Anyway, so. But if you remember when I was coaching you guys, right, I told you that I never wanted to hear excuses about the bracket, because when we prepare to win. We prepare to be number one, and you're going to have to – I don't want no sympathy, right? And that was something that I would coach you guys on, where it's like I don't want an easy bracket, and then we do good, and then you have an easy bracket, right? So is that something that you all are trying to continue to practice now, where when it comes to the draw – of the brackets, are you all still nervous about it? Are you still on edge given the trauma of 5 years, or are you all just prepared?
It's right. Like right now, it's like we know it's gonna be just the worst. We're on the edge of our seat to see if we get anything thrown at us. Like this Koa, we played a team called Cat. They were the Korean team and formerly known as the best non-professional team. And it was the first time I've ever played a non-professional team in my life. And we destroyed them. So it was like, okay, so the reigning best non-professional team got destroyed to us, and we almost beat China teams. At this point, it doesn't matter who we get, we have to beat them because we have the potential to beat them. Every team we play, we come close to. The only time we've gotten destroyed is IVS. Other than that, we keep it close. So, when we're getting the bracket, we're like, will we get a free team this tournament? And then it doesn't matter. We know we're gonna get the hardest team. It's just, will we get an easy team as well?
So so what you're saying is that you still get nervous when the draw comes out, right? Like low key, like you get a little nervy.
I mean, yeah, I get it's I guess excited. That's my favorite part of every tournament, the bracket. And then I get disappointed when I see our bracket, but I get
Right,
super like, yeah. I actually get the team to message me numbers 1 to 10 on the scale of difficulty
right.
to see like, and it has yet to be below an 8. So maybe this tournament will get below an 8.
You know, that was the difficult part when I was coaching is that you have to try to motivate the team. Oh, it doesn't matter about the bracket. Now, as somebody who is away from all of that and more casual, now I can just openly say, man, this is bullshit. It's 5 years in a row.
Maybe this co is the one. Maybe we'll get an easy bracket and then we can,
Yeah,
do well. But if we do well in an easy bracket, no one's going to give us credit. So we need to do well in a hard bracket. That's how you
right.
really get the credit.
So you mentioned that this may be some players' last tournament. That was a little bit of a, I don't know, maybe a little bit of a foreshadowing. Can you emphasize on that? Maybe elaborate, or is that a no go zone right now?
Um, I won't say the names because then people will start messaging and get sad. But yeah, for sure, 2 to 3 people will be gone after this tournament.
Perfect time for Persuadable to come back as a player. No. So that's gonna be a big moment. So this is gonna be an emotional journey. This is for a lot of you. I mean, one of the nice things about Rival as a team that separates themselves from the rest of the other teams as far as I'm concerned, and I could be wrong on that one, but for the most part, out of all professional teams, Rival, I'm practicing this name. Give me a little
You can say
Rival.
before you is fine.
No, it's okay. You got a sponsorship. I got to respect that. Rival has been one of those teams that have stayed the same in terms of the core members for the most
Yeah.
part, with Paul Blum's, My Leg, Roland, you, Sprinter. So, are you anticipating how you're going to process that, or are you just in the zone of I just need to compete, do the best that I can, and worry about that later?
Yeah, that's how I'm thinking. It's like I can't dwell on this might be our last because we still have a tournament ahead of us that could be our best and our last. So I obviously I have to think about everything. But right now I'm trying to focus on the next tournament because if it is our last, I want to make it memorable. And I want to show to us at least that we can do it.
I think that's respectable, though. Enjoy the moment while you can. You're going to look back at these
Yeah.
times, and hopefully, these are some of the most valuable moments of your life because, I mean, you guys have been a team for a long time together. That goes far beyond the video game. You know, the partnership and friendship that you all have together.
Yeah.
Okay, going back onto the tournament. All right, so the recent one that you just had, you
Yeah.
said that Paul couldn't practice too much. Where was the decision making that made you think that having a new player on your team who you have no rapport with, very little rapport, very little synergy, why did that outweigh the years of synergy that you would have with Paul Blums, even if he wasn't able to practice for 2 weeks? It's not like he was gone for 3 months on a 4 month training regimen. He was gone for a couple weeks on a very short regimen. So uh, the decision to trust a new character, a new player in terms of the team, he's a great player, but no synergy with the team, no real formal practice. You decided to go that route instead of just working with what's already been going. And I don't think there's been any new meta that has significantly changed the game in 2 weeks prior to the tournament. So where was the decision making where going with him instead of Paul Blums and relying on years of synergy was the right decision to make?
Yeah, so if we had Paul, we would have done a lot better in IVS. I mean, there's no question about that. When Paul said he couldn't play, let me tell you, I panicked. I was in a panic, a shock. So I had to tell the
You
team,
panicking?
yeah, I was everyone, right? So the only way we didn't know, Paul basically implied that he wouldn't be able to play for IVS. Um, so we were in a shock and a panic. So with that, we had to literally beg Yin Ling. And the way to do that was he was like, I can play, but I would have to skip classes. And we were like, we promise you'll play in IVS if you come play with us, because we have no other option. You will play. So with that, he started practicing. So he starts practicing, and then a week goes by, and then Paul is like, "No, I'm back." But we had already promised Yin Ling, who's now skipping classes, that he'd play. So it was a very weird situation because we promised one player uh, who couldn't play prior that they would play because Paul can't play, and then Paul comes back, and it was just a very weird thing. And Yin Ling on paper is the best player in the server. He was an ex pro. We played him in Koa before, and he's very very talented. So we thought, all right, if Paul's gonna stick with us, Paul's probably gonna play in Koa, so might as well let Yin Ling play this IVS tournament because we promised he would anyway. Especially since he's coming to every single practice prior and helping the team out a lot. Even though we have no synergy with him and Paul would be a better pick, at the time the team was like, well, Yinling's putting in all the work. We don't know if Paul can continuously practice like Yinling, so that was the decision making.
So, is it safe to say that despite it being a tournament that you've never been invited to with a new partnership as a team, you decided to follow through with your word to one of your teammates rather than straying away from that, even if you thought that playing with Paul would possibly end up in a better result? Is that fair?
Yeah, we couldn't he was skipping school and we couldn't in good consciousness let him not play after we literally went on our knees for 2 weeks to beg him to come play.
That's fair. That is a very fair response. Very fair response. One of the criticisms I read about Rival is there are I don't know the meta. So you have to understand that I'm telling you that I'm going off with what I'm reading. So if it's wrong, absolutely correct me. But one of the criticisms
Yeah.
that I'm seeing is that you guys are behind on the meta. Specifically, you as a player are playing characters that are kind of getting phased out. And there's some questions regarding your character selection and choice to cater around your play style rather than catching up to the meta. Um, I think I can give some specific examples, but again, I got to go on my notes because I had to write that shit down. So my question to you is, what's your response to that? Genuine, I have no idea. So you have to break this down to me like I'm five.
Um, Regarding IVS, we did strategies we never have practiced before to benefit Yinling. For example, our dancer. Yinling's known as the best dancer in the world. So we were like, okay, let's practice dancer. We only practiced dancer for about 4 days. Um, we actually started practicing dancer when we arrived in China. So that was very new to us, but we still stuck with it because we were confident that Yinling could do well with it. We were trying to cater to him because we aren't very, like you said, team synergy. A lot of the errors we made in IBS would have been resolved if he was just playing with us longer, or it was Paul just knowing what to do. Regardless, with the meta, we are fairly good with it. I'm very good friends with the best team in Japan, RC, and we talk about meta all the time. And we're always practicing meta. And the strategy regarding IBS is we studied the teams to a T, so much so that, for example, we didn't expect Alf to go Ivy round one because he's never done that. So that's a lack of preparation on our part. We were so certain he would go Sangria. So our comp was built around Sangria, not thinking he would go Ivy. That was a secret. So we have to that was a big learning lesson. We have to be prepared for the secrets, all of the hidden things, because he's never done that before. So that made us look fools. Um, we were just preparing for something and not preparing. We put all of our eggs into one basket, ignoring the other basket. So with that, I can see people's pushback. Just know that we are in the meta, and in scrims we did a lot better than in the tournament, which is unfortunate. But yeah, no, I say we're good on the meta.
The sangria aspect. Do you think that was showing respect to the fact that in Koa you guys performed so well?
We have to. We yeah no
Like
that's a
I
good
mean,
point.
like, do you think that that hunter was showing
Yeah
respect to you all, being like, I
no
don't want to
no
mess with
that's the
this?
thing. We didn't think about that. In Koa, if you know you unless you watch Koa, you want to know is teams were starting to like target ban because we were so good at sangria that they would like literally go out of their way to make it so that we'd have a horrible time. So people know we're a really good sangria team. So on paper, yes, he probably went Ivy knowing we're a good sangria team. Um, he also probably went Ivy knowing that we probably don't have a lot of experience with Ivy, considering she's new and we don't have like as much experience as pro teams, like in pro league. So yeah, I would say that's a big factor. He didn't want to play sangria into us because we are the sangria team. Yeah, I would say so, and that's something that didn't occur to us, and it should have.
Going back onto something, I appreciate that answer. Going back onto something that you mentioned, so I just want to make sure I get this timeline right. You mentioned how you had a month prior to the tournament, right, to practice. You only had 2 weeks, and then that's because Paul's situation. And then you begged Zingling to play with you guys. Did he, when he started skipping classes, this was 2 weeks prior to the tournament, right? So my confusion is that if you are going to start catering to his strategies with Dancer, why did you all decide to do this when you land in China instead of working on what you did for 2 weeks, right? If you abandon what you have practiced for 2 weeks with a strategy that you've never even practiced before, when you land in China, in my mind, with a whole new player that you've never played with synergy wise, and then you still, I applaud you following through with your agreement with him, especially with his sacrifice. But at what point is that too much of a gamble with a new sponsor in a new tournament that you've worked 5 years to gain access to? Was that an articulate decision to change everything that you worked on with the limited time you had at the last minute? Or was this something probably related to nerves and impulsivity? I'm not suggesting. I'm literally asking.
Yes. So with Yinling, uh, it's a English Chinese barrier. His English isn't great. So we found out he was great at dancer through just trial and error of him eventually opening up to us and figuring it out. So then we practiced it against RC, and we did very well. And if we can do very well versus RC, the second place Koa team, and the known best Japan team, second best in the world, we're confident we can do it. However, in IVS, every round we played was a curveball. We prepared for one thing. So, for example, we prepared for Red Shirt Sangria, and if he went Sangria into that comp with Yinling, we win. I'm confident we would have beaten Alf with that. We were very good. He went Ivy. Then second round we prepared for Ivy. He went Wax, and then it's the same thing with Weibo. So we would have done better with Paul, but we every single round they threw a curveball at us, and that is something that we have to figure out how to do, because China and Japan teams, they do it for a living. They practice 16 hours a day, so they are ready for everything, whereas NA, we have a little amount of time, so we can't be jack of all trades, master of all. We have to be specific. So when we prepare for these tournaments, we can't prepare for first round Ivy Sangria and we have to prepare for Sangria on this one map, and hopefully it goes that way. And in IVS, every single map that we prepared for did not follow through because they did not go the thing we thought they would. So that's probably my answer.
So throwing curveballs is what we were known for, right? Leo's memory,
Mm-hmm.
that was the big moment. Everyone in
Mm-hmm.
China was like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's almost like
Mm-hmm.
we we could, because we learned from GR with Dancer, we learned Leo's memory with Geisha, curveballs from Koa. We utilized those effectively within the regional tournaments against Ialien's team, who did very well. And what I'm hearing from this is exactly what you said, that you guys are not handling curveballs well. So my question is what are you going to do about it? Because it's very clear that you guys are very, I don't want to use the word one-dimensional because that can come off a little offensive. But what you're saying typically for good reasons is that a time constraint, life constraint, you guys aren't paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this professionally. You have real life obligations. Medical school's a pain in the ass, right? But the weakness is still there, right? Regardless of circumstances or rationale. So how are you all going to try to prepare for this where you're practicing what you think is going to happen versus this blaring weakness where any curveball you guys just kind of melt? With what you're telling me, I don't know. What's your
Yeah,
plan?
so um again, IBS is probably the worst tournament I've ever been a part of, performance wise, and our team's ever been a part of. And we had very little preparation for it considering the circumstances. Obviously I don't want to hold the circumstances to it, but we've performed very well in Koa, and IBS just was awful for us. Now, with that being said, right now the meta's awful. We are introduced to a new hunter coming into the meta. Hunters now have 9 permanent bans. And the right now survivors tying is considered a win. Um, Survivors are getting 4-man left and right in every single dimension, in every single league, in every single tier. This is the most hunter-sided meta I've ever seen, I've ever been a part of. So our survivors, we just have to prepare. For Koa, we have a lot of time. We know when Koa is going to be. We have 6 months instead of 2 weeks, or a month rather, and we will be prepared. Because the meta won't switch again. Before IBS, the meta also switched, so there won't be like a huge curveball going into the tournament and then huge curveballs thrown at us, because by the time Koa comes, we will know the 3 main hunters. We will be prepared for those 3 main hunters, and there won't be a single curveball that can be thrown at us. Whereas with this, the meta had shifted, um, and curveballs we just couldn't prepare quick enough, and that's our fault. We could have done better. But for Koa, we usually do well, and we're gonna practice. The thing that is bad about our server, and this is not a shot on NA because I'm doing the best I can to make it better. We have no teams to scrim here. Um, Everyone in NA in the competitive scene wants to beat us. So with that being said, they talk amongst each other. So when we scrim someone, like for example, we scrimmed a team, they streamed it. I mean, they recorded it without us knowing, even though we asked them not to, and they showed it to every other team. So, and then there's like 2 teams that can help us learn. The other teams will just destroy. So with that being said, we have no huge practice. We have Sprinter, and when you practice against Sprinter every day, it's not much help. So like for example, we're playing Alf, the number one bonbon in the world. There's no bonbon in NA, so we can't prepare for that. When Because the only bonbon I know is Sprinter, right? We don't have Daku anymore, right? So it's like, what do we do? So in NA, we need more teams to scrim against and willing to help us, because we're trying to help NA too, but it seems like in the top tiers, no one really wants to see us succeed. They would rather be in our position, if that makes sense. So my answer to you is the best way to prepare for a tournament like that of unexpectancy of curveballs is scrimming other teams. Because when we just play Sprinter, we're playing the same thing every round. We know what's coming. Whereas if we scrim other teams, we don't know what's coming. That's why when we get to Koa and IVS, we scrim as much as possible, because that's the only time we get practice against someone other than Sprinter. Um, and that's when we can see the curveballs. Like when we scrimmed RC, they went IV first round. We've never seen that in NA. That was new to us. So we had to ask RC questions like, okay, how do you deal with that when we expect a sangria? And lo and behold, that's what Alf did versus us in IVS. So that would be the main thing. We're going to try to scrim more for Koa. But if there are no teams willing to scrim us in NA, We're just going to work on ourselves and strategize the best we can. Aaron's very good at strategizing. And last COA, we did very well. And if we just replicate what we did last COA with optimizations, we should be fine.
I think that what you said makes sense in regards to lacking the ability to scrim against other hunters that are curveballs or potential curveballs. Usually, scrims are a good way to have both teams benefit. So, when teams are not going to scrim against you in NAEU, they're just hurting themselves. If I was a professional coach again to a team that I wanted to beat your ass in, I'd be scrimming you as much as possible. Yeah, you'll gain intel from us and you'll gain intel from me, but I would need my players to practice against Sprinter. Unless there's somebody who's up and coming and is starting to match his quality, yeah, you have to be able to weigh what are our secrets versus how do we gain experience. And especially with the lack of professional teams here, that must be very difficult. One of the things that I read, again, criticism, just because these are the tough questions, and by all means, give me all your insight, is that apparently a lot of teams are using support characters, people like Weepin' Clown, Finn, Barmaid, or Psycho combined with Harass. Do you feel like you all are doing that? And if so, why? Or if not, why?
Yeah, so right now the best survivors arguably are Puppeteer and Weeping Clown, and Finn, Fire Investigator. And all three we're very good as a team with. We just don't know how to support with them per se, because right now it's a very hard kiting meta until you get to third round. Sangria and Ivy are very I'ma kill you, and if you try to support, I'll punish you for that. So it's very hard to say. We are good with them, and we're practicing with them. Now, I would say what separates the good teams from the great teams is the great teams know how to support very well, and we're trying to figure that out. So it's a work in progress, and there's probably only like 3 teams in the world right now that can pull stuff like that off, and we're working on that. But right now, Sangria is just really hard. And then again, a lot of people might not know, but Goatman is the best hunter in the world right now. So Goatman's not even in tournaments yet. So once Goatman is introduced into the meta, now we're going to be playing Sangria second round and Ivy third round until people figure out Goatman, and then he'll, and then the meta's all mumbo jumbo. And right now, from when I'm talking with RC and TE, 2 professional teams, Survivors just can't win right now with Goatman integrated into the meta. So it's getting very hard. It's going to be, this COA is going to be which Survivors can tie the most rather, because hunters are just insane right now.
So it's
and to touch on that,
yep.
Goatman counters both Finn and Weeping Clown. So he counters the 2 best survivors in this meta. So that's where it starts getting really hard, because the 2 best survivors versus Sangria are now countered by Goatman. So you go them first round, they're now permanently banned. So now what? Now Goatman's out second round, unless you want to ban Goatman and take another Sangria. So it's very hard.
Going back on something that you mentioned in regards to Yingling and Paul, okay? Just because you're talking about how there's going to be a lot of uncertainty with the meta, which was always my favorite part. But there's a lot of uncertainty in regards to what's going to work. Are you focusing on short-term strategies like survivors who are doing well, or are we going to predict that those survivors are going to be phased out based on the new meta? And so let's not focus as much time, especially since time is an issue with Rival at this point, with the amount of time that you can practice and the amount of opponents that you have the ability to practice with. So you have Yingling, who you said is arguably one of the best players on the server. I would make the argument that Paul Blums is probably the best survivor I've ever seen in my career. You have 2 solid players, and so my question is are you automatically going to bench one of them, or are you going to consider the fact that if you have 2 fantastic players that you may need to rotate one of them, even at the expense of being benched yourself or somebody like Roland or Myleg, Because from my standpoint, I don't understand why you would have Paul Blums and Yingling in their own category together, making them go against one another, when in reality, if you have two-star shortstops in baseball, you transfer one to second base, you don't put them on the bench. And my question is are you prepared for that? Are you flexible enough to have them experiment different roles? And are the other members of Rival willing to sit down if they are outcompeted for the sake of the team, like we have done with many greats in our history, such as Roxon, Call Me Duty, Docman, KKZ. I mean, the list goes on, right? And those are all always difficult conversations for us to have, and for myself to have with some of the best players as a old, battered up coach. And so I know that's a long-winded question, and there's multiple questions in there. I apologize for that one. But I was just really wondering what your general idea is, that as a team, if your focus is on winning, again, let me make that a little bit more concise. Are you going to flex them into different categories, and are the other members of the team willing to sit down if one of them outcompetes them in their role, including you?
Yeah, that's a very good question. That's a very good question. I have to be as PC about this question as possible. So we have two perspectives of this. If this is our last tournament as a team, do we just let Paul play? Because we've been with him for 5 years, we'll just let him play, and he would have played in IVS if none of this would be a question if Paul didn't have circumstances outside of the game. Now, with that being said,
1 second. I
how
don't
do I
mean to.
how do I
I
put
don't
this?
mean to. I don't mean to cut you off. I think this is the first time I've cut you off in the interview, and that's really good for somebody with ADHD. You don't know if this would be an issue, though, because if Yingling is a new player on the team, if I'm coaching, that's a fresh start. None of your roles are protected. You have to consistently beat everybody else. I don't care if you're on the team for 5 years. We're here
Yeah.
to win. You're here for the server. You're not
Okay.
necessarily.
Yeah.
You know what
Okay.
I'm.
So I have an answer then. Yeah,
Okay.
I have an
Okay.
answer.
Okay.
If you were to, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say names. If you were to ask the team, every individual on the team, who's the best and the worst player, we'd have the same answer. With that, and if you were to rank them based on skill, based on how well they learn, based on how much they show up to practice, based on all these factors, it would be the same list. Um, I have to be as PC as possible about this because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. But as of right now, our team feels like the four best players will be playing.
Now, if I may, I gently push on this. Is that okay?
You can, yeah, yeah.
Okay. And if I go too far, please just say, we got to stop. But don't you feel as though that's a coaching liability? Like at one point, Spencer was our third string, and within 6 months, he was our main hunter, right?
Okay,
And
so
so Koa's,
let me. I have a response to that. I know what you're saying.
yeah, like we got 6 months, right? So where do you take accountability and say, okay, right now we think these are our strong four. What are we
Yeah,
doing to get that
it's
fifth one?
based on how well you've improved. Okay, Roland used to be the worst player on the team. If we were to ask everyone on the team right now who's the best, it'd be Roland. Consistency wise, he does not fail rescues. So in his role, he is the best at what he does. He just
Sure.
does not fail rescues. He is able to, when I'm chased, he's able to dictate the game. He's able to tell the first 5 ciphers in the first 10 seconds. He's able to tell you where to die. What Roland does is phenomenal. I cannot stress enough how important Roland is to the team.
Sure.
And he used to be the worst. And you probably remember Roland not being great. Now he's amazing, right? With that being said, Paul was the best. Um, he was known as the best survivor when you were coach. And without a doubt, he's probably the best survivor I've ever met at that time. However, as the team's skill grows, others don't. So we have to evaluate that at the how fast you're learning. So with that being said, plus the inconsistency of being able to come to practice, we have to evaluate all of that. Because if you were the best 3 years ago, doesn't mean you're the best now. So that's what the team is recognizing. That's what Aaron is trying to gather. And Aaron will play the 4 best when Koa comes. That is for certain. Because we are aiming to win. So by the time Koa comes, we will know who the 4 best are. And if that's me, if that means me sitting, if that means Roland sitting, if that means Paul sitting, that's what we have to do.
And so Roland's doing well. I don't want you to think that my question was suggesting Roland was the weakest link. That wasn't the question. The question
No,
was
I wanted to show that we are considering how quickly and how people learn, how much you put into it. That's my point. We consider every factor in it. You never said anything about Roland being bad.
yeah.
I
No,
use that as an example because Roland puts in the most work.
right,
So of course he's going to be one of the people who starts because he's putting in so much work.
right.
And it shows. So within the 6 months, we will see who puts in the most work and who's willing to improve the most.
Okay, so the answer would be is that you all are dynamic, flexible. It's going to take a lot of work, and those who put the effort in and show, those are going to be the individuals that
Of
play,
course.
right?
We want to. It's been 5 years. We're trying to win. we have we have to play the best.
Right. And so when it comes to that, right? If I feel like I have a player that's fallen behind, is this a teacher issue or is this a student issue? I don't think there needs to be an answer to it, right? It's a two-way street. One of the most important things was maintaining everyone's mental health on the team, making sure I was checking in with all my teammates one-on-one, making sure we talk together as a group. And it sounds like there was a big curveball that affected your strategy. And so the question is I think I just don't understand how that happens out of nowhere where, typically if you're staying up to date with people, talking to them privately, making sure that their mental health is good, making sure their personal lives are good. I mean, curveballs happen. I mean, you can do all that and a curveball can happen and it's still unexpected. But is the team still emphasizing that same approach of making sure that your coaches are staying in touch with all your individual players to try to prevent such a massive curveball like this?
Yes and no.
I appreciate your honesty. Like, you're being real.
Yeah.
Like, this is a real interview. This ain't some bullshit answers. Dude, I apprate it. But
I'm being
please
100,
please
and
continue. Yeah, sorry.
I'll try to answer 100% honestly with every question. Now, we're a family, our team, so we try to be real with everyone. However, there are some players who try to not talk about anything, and it ends up hurting the team the most. I won't say names. I won't say anything. There are just some players that don't talk about anything. And even if it's eating them alive, like, okay, Schmitty, you just pissed me off, but I'm not going to say anything. So I'm going to continually do it because I don't know it's pissing you off. I'm just going to keep doing it. Like, for example, if every time you said I was tall, it pissed me off, but I didn't say anything, you'd continue to do it. So it continued to build up, stack. So when we do these checks, are you good? Are you sure you can do this? And the person is like, oh no, I'm fine. It doesn't help. So like when you say, is it more coach or player? At the moment, the team, it's for players because the players don't want to open up, so we can't help. And that would be for everyone, including myself. Sometimes you just don't want to talk about life. So in that point, we can't help you.
Have you considered that it may not be a person thing, but rather an environmental thing, right? Like a flower doesn't bloom in a sewer. And so the things that you're mentioning to me is unfamiliar because that's not how it really was years ago. And things change, right? We don't live in the past. But like I remember making sure that everybody, that do you remember our practices, how much I would yell? Schmitty, what the fuck was that football? But you never felt like sometimes I'd annoy you. You knew that it was even, right? When Paul would mess up, when my leg would mess up, if Roland messed up, it was fair. Everybody felt comfortable. Nobody felt targeted. It was good. And everybody, what you're telling me is for some reason, some of your players don't feel comfortable communicating about their real life. Now, there's always time where players need a little bit of space. Sometimes we need our own little time. But that's why I'm just asking, are you certain that this is player related, or is this the where the atmosphere is where you are at a team relative to also all of the changes you've had to go through, right? You had mistaken green's not there anymore. Now you're talking about IVS, the stress of that, and then you have to get Ying and the stress of trying to make sure you can even go to the first tournament. Do you think that this is a culmination of a very stressful time, or do you think that this is an environment that you will all sort of contribute into, or maybe the lack thereof?
That's a I see. I like these questions. They make me think. Um, I would say it's a great environment for everyone, but for everyone but us, for everyone but one. Um, I would say this IVS was the most family team. How do I put this? This was the most fun I've had at a tournament ever in my career, and we did absolutely awful because the team felt like a team except for one. And so that's when it gets very hard because you mentioned flower can't bloom in that metaphor. Um, all the flowers are blooming but one. So then what do you do? So that's when it's hard. Um, because we're doing our best, and with all the curveballs, we still have to. We're everyone on the team is sacrificing something, whether it be missing classes, missing family, missing school, missing whatever. Like, for example, right now, me, in order to go to IVS, I had to take a gap semester. So, like, right now, I'm not in school. I start in January. And the only way I could have gone to IVS was doing that because med school is a beast. So, that's an example. And I don't regret it because I live one life and med school is not going anywhere. IDV is. So, with that being said, in my personal opinion, the team right now is fine. It's just one flower isn't getting the fertilization it needs compared to the others.
May, may I respond to that?
Of course.
Okay. So the way that I look at it is that if I'm in a relationship with a woman and I am on top of the world and she is not, I wouldn't say, well, one of the flowers out of the two are blooming, so why can't you catch up? I would focus on the flower that's not blooming and wonder what I can do. Because if you're family and if you're somebody, your friends, and I look at it in how doesn't the rest of the flowers that are blooming all be concerned for the one that isn't and come together as a team and not make it a 4v1 or a 5v1, but instead all of us against the issue to make sure that we're not leaving somebody behind.
Okay, then can now my response to that would be
Yeah.
all the flowers thought everyone was fine until one of the flowers just completely died
Yeah.
because one of the flowers wasn't saying anything. So like all the flowers think everyone's perfectly fine blooming in the sun until literally one day that flower just dies.
Right.
And then we're like, what? We had no idea.
Sure.
So that's my clapback.
Okay. And so my question would be is that has there been a team discussion, an honest one, where everybody feels safe, warm on how to not only address this now and to also listen, not necessarily always agree, but listen to see how you can circumvent this in the future, because this is an issue at some point, and it could have been a player issue. I'm not saying it's a context issue, right? It could have been a player issue, could have been a context issue, but you have something going on right now which needs to be repaired. And then what is the plan in the future as a team to try to make sure that everybody is good and making sure that it doesn't affect the team?
Um, yes and no. We haven't had a full team meeting because I don't know how to explain it. This it's a very hostile situation right now. So we were like dividing and conquering in a sense. But it's like we're all trying, especially because you I mean, you know me, I hate seeing things like this because I've been with this team for 5 years. Like they're my life. I left everything for them. So seeing this and seeing the disagreements and the like, it's literally like it's like we're in two different worlds. Like
Right,
one
right.
person sees this and one person sees this, and we're trying to find middle ground, but there is no middle ground. Like so, it's very hard. We're working on it, but it's very hard right now.
Sure.
And I would say I'm very good at this, but right now it's hard. Um, so it's a work in progress.
Sure. And like I said, me asking the question about the environment, that's not suggesting that the environment is the issue. That's my way of trying to gain a little bit more insight regarding that situation, right? But at the end of the day, I mean, it could really be anything. And I know that you have to tread the line a little bit because there's a lot of personal details and stuff. So I really want to emphasize that I'm not trying to suggest that it's because of the environment. I'm asking, did
No,
you consider?
really, I
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
know.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah, no,
yes,
no.
I
I'm just
truly
asking
I know.
that's how it
You're
is,
you're,
right?
you're talking to Schmitty. You don't
Yeah.
have to you don't have to worry about any of that.
I like to make sure that we try to control for all variables. For those who are watching, if I'm working with my patients, right, and there's a time where, like let's say if a husband and wife, they're yelling at each other because the husband didn't do the dishes. And on the surface level, it's he didn't do the dishes. Well, it's like, well, what was the build up to that, right? And that's how real therapy works is that you dig deep, right? You look into it.
And that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and you got to
We
look.
we're trying to recognize.
Right. And you don't only just focus on the dishes. It's like, and then you find out that he consistently says he's going to do things, he consistently doesn't, and the dishes is just the tip. There's this whole thing about being consistent, following your word that didn't follow through, and then so that's where, like, when you actually go into a real clinical setting, and you know this, you're in med school, you really dig deep. And so by digging deep, I don't want that to be misconstrued with the viewers that I'm suggesting that it's a context. It's just me trying to understand the variables to get more of the information. But so it sounds like your answer to my question is that you all are in the process right now of trying to find middle ground, and it doesn't exist yet, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to exist in the future. And that at least means that in the analogy of the flowers, people are willing to compromise, and I think that's a strong quality in a team. Nothing is ever perfect. There's no team that's always in synergy. We always had conflict back in the day too, and a perfect relationship, it doesn't exist, but more so, the ability to problem solve and have conflict resolution strategies is paramount with any team. So we shouldn't misconstrue this as if we're a good team, there should never be issues. That doesn't make a good team. It's when issues arise, us as a team will have the maturity to come together and find a solution, right? Because it's you guys against the issue. It's not you guys against each other. And if you're gonna compromise, it's a process. It doesn't happen right away typically. And if it does, then usually someone's shutting their mouth. So sometimes drawn out conflict can lead to better communication. So is it fair to say that as a team, you all are in the middle of trying to find and resolve the problem and come up with an adequate conflict resolution strategy? You're in that process right now. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think I wish you guys luck. Remember, at the end of the day, it's just a game, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah. Yeah.
friendship, you guys have been overcoming conflict for 5 years. You've overcome
Yeah.
way
That's why
worse
I'm
than this.
really. Yeah. That's why it really sucks because we've overcome worse. We have overcome worse than this,
Yeah. Oh, wait, way
and
worse.
we've been a team for 5 years, and it's just this is this is dumb what is being talked about, but I can see how it touches some nerves. So I really hope it gets resolved.
Have you guys considered that if you cannot figure this out internally, to go to external sources for a resolution?
Yes.
Good. Because all of you deserve that effort into one another, right? So it sounds like it's just a show. I mean, and like I said, you guys have gone through a lot. You lose one of your best players. You're constantly in the best brackets. Uh, you just got a sponsorship. There's a lot of changes, and sometimes as a team, adjusting with those changes can be difficult. And so somebody wrote in the comments here, you have a great friendship, but this is still work. And in that environment, it's also everyone's responsibility to take care of themselves too. And I think that makes sense as well. And it's just one of those things where it's not trying to find the blame, but it's more so of just making sure that you're accounting for as many variables as possible. And it sounds like you as a team right now, you're in that process. So, um, with that being said, do you guys have a backup hunter?
No.
And is that smart?
Yes.
How come?
Every single time we've had okay, and this roots back to the problem at hand too. Every single time we've had someone who doesn't play, it becomes a forest fire. So with Koa 4, 5, 6, 7, now 8, if if they are a pivotal part of the team but they are not playing, it's a forest fire. I'm like getting hitman. I'm like there's drama every day, and it's been with almost every single person we've had not play, and we can't deal with that drama for safety because there is not a single hunter in the server who will play over Sprinter. Not a single one. So which hunters are okay with taking the backseat again for Sprinter? There aren't many hunters that are like, I'm going to stay in the backseat and I'm happy with this. For example, we had backup Ching as our hunter. He got sick of being the backup and he went to a different team. It's the same with another hunter we had and another hunter we had. So it's not. It's very hard because when you have backups, and it happened with a Survivor recently, not this IVS. I'm talking last Koa. It happened the same way. So historically, every time we've had a fifth or a backup, even though they are a pivotal part of the team, they have beef with us. Like they see they're not going to play, so it's like, why am I here? So it's very hard. So the backup we would get would be someone that isn't even qualified to even participate in the tournament. So it's better to not have a backup at all than deal with, get the second best hunter in the server and then they flip out.
The reason, and I appreciate that answer, the reason why I ask is because you just saw the ramifications of not having a backup plan with your survivor situation. And the hunter situation is 10 times more sensitive because replacing a hunter is significantly more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my mind, when you ended Koa and then you were in a position where you didn't have a survivor and then you had to beg Ying in order to play because of Paul's situation, you barely made the tournament. And so the question is it rational, regardless of the drama that could or could not happen, to put yourself in the exact same situation that you all just went through? And in fact, if anything happened with Sprinter, if he gets sick, if he has a family issue, curveballs happen as you just experienced, it's very well within reason that you may not even be able to go to Koa. So would it be more responsible and safe, especially with a new sponsor, to have a backup and again help transition that player into being okay with being a backup versus going into Koa, or we should say regionals, without any backup plan whatsoever? Are you willing to put yourself into an even more dangerous situation than the one that you just went through?
Okay, then I would then say any hunters that are very peak tier that don't have a problem sitting backseat to Sprinter, message me. That would be the way I would go about it because there aren't many,
Right.
if any. So it's not like a survivor where a backup survivor, I can name like 5 right now on the server that would be qualified to be a backup survivor for us. There is not a single hunter. So if there is a hunter out there in NAEU that's willing to be the backseat to Sprinter, but you're willing to learn and you can improve on our team. Even if you do end up leaving our team, you get the knowledge of how we operate and be backup to Sprinter. That's perfectly fine. Message me. Uh, but I guarantee I won't get a single message. That's where it's at, because all the hunters in this server have an ego. They want to prove they're better than Sprinter, and you can't prove you're
And
better than
not to
Sprinter.
cut you off, but that's okay, right?
Yeah, no,
That's
I'm not.
yeah,
You
yeah,
have
yeah.
to, if you want to make a name for yourself, you have to beat us,
Right.
and in order to beat us, you have to prove you're better than Sprinter. Now, all the hunters that think they're better than Sprinter will not want to join us. Now, for right reason, obviously, it's perfectly fine. That's the nature of competition. It's just answering the question of backup hunter. Obviously, it's smart, and obviously, we've done it every koa except last. But if there is a hunter that's willing to do that, perfect. We will get them. And maybe if you see a signing of a backup hunter for koa, then you're the reason, honestly. But I won't get a message. All the hunters that are worthwhile that would want to improve our team are not going to join.
I don't know why my teeth look so white, but I'm loving this light. Anyway, sorry. I was paying attention. I promise. That's why I wasn't smiling at you. I'm like, damn, they getting pearly white. We're doing all right. All right. So I think that I would challenge that by saying that if you were to hire a backup hunter, why do they automatically have to sit?
I mean, that's a clap back. That's good.
I brought
Um,
Roxon was arguably the best hunter in the server, and he eventually sat because I felt that Duty was out competing him. And then eventually other players sat because Sprinter, who was a third string in that we helped develop, and not only help develop but also maintain. And so going back to the context thing, the environment, you've had multiple high tier hunters and every single one of them leaves. And so at what point have we assessed the environment again? You know, at what point is it the issue of the team? Is this every other hunter's fault because of ego and their ability to compete? I again, that's why I wanted to interrupt you briefly, because it's okay to be a competitor, right? And I know you know that better than anyone. So I wanted to make sure that we weren't being negative about those hunters that wanted to have a better opportunity, right? If you're in football and you're a backup wide receiver, but you can get signed by a team that wants to make you a starter, you're going to do that, right? So when we had Sprinter and KKZ as our backups, it was the coach's responsibility to make sure that we were helping them develop even outside of practice, making sure that we were giving them a fair shot. And so are you willing to give another hunter who is a top tier a fair shot? Because if he somehow, and I don't think anyone's going to outperform Sprinter, but you never know. Historically, we've had to replace the greats, right? I think Sprinter's cemented, but you know what I'm saying.
that's a great question. You see, you're coming up with good questions. I love these. Yeah, everyone we add onto the team, we see potential in and think they can become the best in the world. Like I don't get someone and be like, oh yeah, you're great and I'll join our team. No, I get someone with the intent, like for example, when I eventually quit, I don't want the team to just die. I want someone to carry on the legacy of our team. Um, so when I do recruit players, and when the team recruits players, I look for who can be the best. Now, regarding hunters, it's very difficult. I have yet to see a hunter near Sprinter's level. So if we were to get a hunter for our team, we would develop you into a sense that you could become better than Sprinter. That's our goal. If you can become better than Sprinter, we're going to win every tournament. So that would be our entire goal. We're trying to build you up, and that's the entire goal. So even if you are a backup, we're building you up, and if you do eventually get better, of course you'll play. That's why we have Aaron. Aaron is the least emotional person. Like he'll play the best. Like he'll just play the best. There's no bias or anything. Like if you are the best player, you're playing. So if we did get a backup hunter and they became better than Sprinter, Aaron would definitely play that hunter over Sprinter. Now, when we do recruit players, like I said, we don't always recruit the best player. We recruit players based on they're willing to learn. I think that what makes the best player in the world is when you think you know nothing. So that's what makes Spencer almost impossible to beat. Spencer thinks he's complete shit. Like Spencer thinks he's ass. So Spencer's
That's why
everyday.
I know I cut you off. That's why he was so easy to mold and coach,
Yeah,
because he had no
yeah,
ego. Like, he was willing to take advice from me, and I've always been an ass hunter. And then I would,
yeah,
he would see it in practice, and I didn't. I mean, Spencer didn't really need me like crazy. We just gave him the direction of like practice this hunter, and he did.
no,
And
yeah,
I agree with you. I'll back that up. Spencer has always been a humble. If anything, he's been too harsh on himself. We actually had a
yeah,
we did confidence training with him, low key. We did confidence training with him. I purposely made him go against you guys on certain maps, so as he demolished you guys, it
and
built up his
now he's tough.
confidence. Yeah,
In
yeah.
tournaments, he's steel.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
tournaments,
yeah.
he's
I,
steel.
I would specifically have him demolish you on certain maps to build up his confidence, to get him to do better on the more advanced maps. But that's not something I ever told him, because he had a lot of. He was a good player, but he was also young, and sometimes you don't want somebody too cocky, but you also don't want somebody too humble. However, if I had to choose one of the two, it would always be too humble, because you can mold confidence, and learning humility is very tough, that I've found in a clinical environment. So
Yeah. So like, anyway, to answer your question,
sorry about that.
we look for people who, no, it's fine. I love hearing your input. We look for people who are willing to learn. The people who think they're the best in the world will not improve. And I've seen that firsthand on our team. Some people think they are just the shit. They're the best in the world. People tell them they're the best in the world, and they just don't. They stop improving. They stop improving. Whereas another great example is Roland. Roland thinks he's absolute ass, and he is now the best on the team. Whereas like some people think they're the greatest and they haven't improved. So where you think mentally is it goes a long way. Like for me, ever since coordinator days, I still remember the missing a shot and you messaging me after, dude, get out of my match. I remember that. Ever since that, I think I'm ass. So I have to keep
Oh
improving
shit, dude! What an
to
asshole.
keep up. Yep. So and I will say this: we are looking for new players. For whatever reason, if we ever need new players, and I messaged someone yesterday, and they responded that, "Why would you pick me? I'm absolute ass," and that's what I like to see, because we've had players that think they're just so good, and then they're so egotistical that they bring nothing to the team. Um, so those are the players that we look for. Like I can help improve someone, like you said with Sprinter. You can help lift someone up who thinks they're not great. But if they think they're the top shit, they're not gonna go up. They can't. They'll sink. So I love that. I love that question.
Do you, whenever Sprinter's trolling, do you ever remind him that he's never beaten me as a coach? Is that like a thing? Because you should. Yeah, just remind him he's never beaten me as a coach. You tell him that. Tell him I said that. See, egotistical, cocky, unteachable. That's why I went coach. That's why I stopped being a player. I sucked ass at event. Actually, you know what's funny? People were trying to they were being very kind to me on Twitch, and they were like, "Oh, Persuade's the GOAT," and it's like, no, Persuade's not the GOAT. When during my generation of this game, the first four season, we were playing checkers. Now there's so many hunters and so many survivors. It's
Yeah.
like this new generation.
Yeah.
You guys are playing chess. You got a whole different thing. Like, we just figured
We
out
had to deal with rippers with the circle foggy blade
Yeah,
areas.
I think that the new generation of Identity 5 players are significantly better than my generation, just simply because it's a much more complex game. And
It's
yeah,
insane,
like
yeah.
you can show respect to the old players if you want. You don't have to, but it's appreciated. But the new generation of players, there's so many more things that you have to account for. There's so many different characters, and even if there's a meta, when you look at the data from like China and Japan, you can take one of the worst hunters and you can still have a top 100 player with it. And on those servers, that versatility is something that you have to account for. That was one less thing that we had to account for during my generation. It was easier. Now, mind you, we also had extremely fucking broken characters like Spider Queen and whatnot during that time, or Spider rather. But like, I look at this, and I feel like sometimes people are overly harsh on themselves, and I think that our us YouTubers and content creators, I think we contribute to that negative feeling because a lot of us historically, and even maybe now, were extremely insecure. A lot of us had a lot of fragile egos because we didn't post our negative gameplay. Every video, top kite, top this, top that. Um, Now, in all fairness, the first two seasons, I fucking killed it. I had everything on live feed. What was it called? Fluxer. Do you remember Fluxer at the time?
Yeah, Fluxer, yo,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
your hype accessory.
But it was annoying though because like everything was on live feed, but I contributed to that as well. How come I'm only posting the good content? And so that's when I tried to start posting like some of the times when I was getting destroyed and whatnot. But even then, like the I think a lot of the problems with Identity 5, and I'm a victim of this, or rather I'm a perpetrator, not a victim. I'm a perpetrator. Is that you get this identity, no pun intended, of being a good solid player, and then you feel like you have to live up to the expectation, and you only want to post your good gameplay, and then when you have a bad gameplay, you get very angry and mad on live stream. Like it becomes a stressful environment for your viewers and for yourself because it's no longer that you're enjoying the game. You're trying to live through these false expectations that you're also inadvertently perpetrating yourself because you don't have the ability to post your negative gameplay. And it becomes this really nasty cycle of I'm good, here's my good gameplay, I played bad, and I'm mad. And then you go in the post chat and all that stuff. And so when you were mentioning how other top players, top competitors in the server don't want to scrim you, has your team tried to reach out with them and try to figure out a way that as a server, other than just trying to get to more competitions, you can mend bridges? Or is that something that just because of the nature of competition and that vicious cycle, it's kind of gotten to the point where it's like we're done with that approach, we're exhausted, we're just going to stick internally because that's something we've already tried? Have you tried it? It's a long-winded question, I'm sorry.
No, that's good. It's fine. Um, yeah. So again, like I told you earlier, there's not a lot of beef anymore. Um, Beef is just not a thing anymore. Like when me and you were playing. When me and you played, every post match chat, someone was going to war. I was called shit 20 times a day. That's just not it's not a thing anymore. However, um,
You want to know the most offensive
teams.
thing that I ever got called? I know I'm cutting you off. I'm sorry. You want to know the most
No, no,
offensive?
what?
Somebody said I
I
look
think
like Drake with leukemia. So it's the worst thing. I still remember it to this day. I was like, my God. Some, it's the
someone said,
worst.
"How could you be so bad as a ginger?"
Sorry. God. Anyways, continue with your answer. I should not have interrupted you, and I apologize.
No, no. Anyway, um, there's one team. There's one team that has been willing to help us, and it is RM. Notably probably the second best team in the server. So RM has been kind enough to help us for IBS, and I'm sure if we want, they will help us. But they're basically the only team that'll help us. Now it is the two best teams helping each other. So as the two best teams help each other, the two best teams will continue to separate from the third because we're helping each other. But the other team's dumb. It's like they dumb. Like they see it as like why would because they view it as like you're gonna get information on me, so when I do play you, you're just gonna wallop me. Whereas wouldn't it be more beneficial to you to play us if you want to learn about us? So it's very hard. That's why we're trying to scrim other regions like Southeast Asia, Japan, because at least they're willing to help us, even though we have awful ping. At least they're willing to help us, whereas NA just won't. Like they just won't help us. The only team that would help us is RM.
And now that you guys have an official sponsorship with Rival, have you considered going to them and discussing the problem? And would Rival, as a sponsor, consider you sending you out to some of those regions to gain more firsthand experience, or is that unreasonable relative to maybe Rivals' expectations, or unreasonable relative to your players' schedules and lack of time compared to other professional players that get to do this 16 hours a day? Have you considered that option, reaching out to Rival to go out externally there for more exposure, more practice, more time?
Um, yes and no. Um, when IVS was announced, we didn't. The last team to be announced for IVS was NA. We didn't know. We were the last team to know we were going.
Okay.
Everyone else knew they were going except NA. Now, Rival was like, if you don't get invited, we'll still fly you out there to scrim other teams so you can get practice. So they were willing to do that for IVS. However, we did get an invite. Now, post IVS, if we do want to scrim other teams, I should and could request now that IVS is after, but they have offered it before. If we were not going to IVS or we were not formally invited, not participating in a tournament, they would have still flown us out to practice, and the entire team would have been down for that. We had our schedules cleared for IVS regardless, so yes, they are willing to do that.
So it sounds like this is an option that if you speak with Rival on, you may have a inevitable solution in terms of gaining more practice. Um,
Yes,
that's
of
probably
course it is hard with Koa season coming up since we have to rank so much.
right, and that's when December, November. When is that again?
December, but we have to get peak tier this season. So when its season resets, we're already high tier, so we can stay at the top of the leaderboards.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So there's definitely a lot of what's so interesting is that when you look at this competitive landscape, there really are a lot of barriers for the NAEU teams that compete
Yes,
here.
yes,
There really is. I think
yes.
at some point we should just be able to admit that without us sounding like we're making excuses. I mean, there's just so many obstacles between time and not being professional players, compensated professional players that get to go to tournaments every single week. Not to mention the real life reality of travel and all that. I remember when we played in Koa, I was so disappointed the fact that we still had bad ping compared to the other players when we had to do the online Koa. And you can't really say anything at the time because you don't want to be a poor sport. And but when you're going 160, 170 ping against 120s, 110s, because other people had bad ping too. Not to mention those who had good ping, that was tough. But you have to stay quiet about it. So I appreciate your ability to articulate some of the reasonable obstacles that you have to face that are, and I'm sure other servers have to face those as well without sounding like you're making excuses. These are just objective things that you're mentioning where you have to figure them out and overcome them. And so it's good that you have considered a lot. And I'm glad that I'm not asking any questions where you're just completely like, I don't know. It sounds like you guys are really coming together as a team for the most part and trying to problem solve a lot of those obstacles. And so, my next question for you, what do you think right now as a team is the big? We talked about numerous things, numerous questions regarding your meta, your selection, your character choices, lack of hunter backups. We talked about so many things. Right now, if you had to take it all together, what is the biggest obstacle that you as a team are facing?
I mean, other than being an A, that's a pretty awful obstacle to face. Um, we just have to be confident in ourselves. When we play confidently, we play confidently, and that's biggest thing. We want NA to help us out because we're trying to help you, and we can beat any team in the world if we're confident against that team. It shows in scrims, because in scrims we have no pressure, no one's watching it, and we think we can win, and we do. But when it comes to tournaments on the stage, we're nervous. We get one tournament a year on stage. So like where all the other teams are on stage 200 times a year, we get one shot on that stage. So when we go out there, we have to just be confident. We can't think of anything else. What if we lose? What if we don't play? No, we have to think we're going to win. And if we do, we will win.
To really push the line here, and if you can't answer this, you can say you can't answer this. The situation with NAEU, at what point do we consider that the situation of NAEU is a NetEase responsibility and not a player responsibility? If you allow the resources for a competitive environment to flourish, then you're more likely to retain competitive teams. So at what point do we not blame these other players who are just trying to do their best to win that one or two tournaments that we have a year? And we've had more opportunities, so we do not need to dichotomize this as evil or good. But at what point do we say, okay, we appreciate the advantage, the increased tournaments that our server has been able to go to, but it's taken us 5 years just to get one additional exposure to one tournament. At what point do we say, if you want 4 or 5 sponsored teams in order to do whatever, then what are the game developers doing in order to make sure that they build that, maintain it, and grow it, and not just say to the players that they're unwilling to play with you because of ego? Or is it a little bit of both? Because, yeah.
I mean, that's a good question. I've talked to NetEase a lot, and they've been very accommodating in the later years. Our team is a very big reason why we get 2 IVTs a year. Our team's also the main reason why we got 2 COA teams in a year. Like I go to war for this server. No one knows. Everyone hates Schmitty.
I know that.
I go to absolute freaking war for this server. To get a second COA spot was actually like Mission Impossible. I was Tom Cruise. When I did that. But regardless, yeah. NetEase took about 4 years to give us IVS, 2 IVTs, and 2 COA spots. So moving forward, NetEase I think will start helping us. But yes, that is a big, big reason. I mean, you remember when me and you played, NetEase was not helping at all. So it's like now after 4 or 5 years, I'm now able to help. I'm now able to get NetEase to start helping NAEU is a big, 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 big step. However, what you're saying is absolutely 100% correct. I just hope we're going in the right direction.
So, going back on a different thing that we talked about, and I apologize that we're bouncing back and forth, but I feel like this is a more natural. Yeah, I appreciate your ability to keep up, just because I feel like it's a more natural conversation. I'm taking notes of what you're saying. I don't have notes of
no,
this.
It's all fine. This is all fine.
You mentioned how there's the possibility that after this after this tournament, that you may have 2 or 3 players potentially retire. Which right now you're juggling the idea of, is this going to be more of a nostalgia tour, or is this going to be more of a we still play the best player? And you stated that A-Run will play the best player, but at the same time you mentioned that as a team, from your standpoint, you may just want to play with the players that built everything up for one final season. What is your team doing to prepare for the potential retirement of almost half your team? Where's the development? Where's the recruitment? Or do you think that players, as you suggested in regards to being in a very competitive atmosphere and unwilling to help, do you think some players wouldn't want to join you because they look at this as the opportunity next year to finally dethrone you? So what are you doing with the development to make sure that you have backup survivors in order to prepare for the future, or is that too far in advance?
I mean, yeah, it's very far. I try not to think about it because I want to just focus on this tournament. But to answer your question, I have to think about everything. I will say this: one of the people not retiring is Sprinter. Sprinter is a very important piece in NA. He's probably the most recognizable person in NA, and 4 or 5 China teams wanted him. That being said, when it comes to rebuilding, depending on who leaves, because I don't know for sure who will leave, how many will leave. Basically, everyone's on the fence of leaving, including myself, except Sprinter. So we have to really figure out what we want to do. With that being said, because Sprinter's still playing, I could literally wave a magic wand and anyone I want would join the team. Because Sprinter's that no one's beating Sprinter. Unless some prodigy comes in I don't know about, no one's beating Sprinter, and everyone knows that. So with that being said, um, people will join our team. So that won't be an issue. It's just who do I want to join a team, because at the end of the day, the best doesn't always equate to the best. Like I could make a team of the 4 best survivors on paper in the world, and I guarantee they won't play well because one, they don't synergize well, one, they don't like each other, they're not a family. Like these are the things we have to think about, because China tries to create super teams and they end up flopping. So it's like uh, when I look for players, if I do stay and all that, I'll look for people with potential that are also humble and nice, and I am looking for that. I already have a few names that I would reach out to.
Just to clarify, you said Sprinter is not leaving, right?
Not. That
Okay.
is the one person that is not leaving. However, if I were to leave, he might leave. So it's like that's where it gets weird. If he leaves, I leave. If I leave, he leaves, and that's the same with a lot of our team. So like it's like a domino effect. If one person leaves, we'll all leave. Like for like especially like me leg sprinter. If one leaves, all 3 will leave.
Right.
That's like something to look at as well. But I don't anticipate. I always say I might retire, and then it's like I love it so much I can't. So as of right now, me and Sprinter will just not be leaving.
Good. Can you just give me 1 second? I apologize.
Yeah.
Somebody's at
No,
the
no,
door.
take your time. Yeah, yeah. Hello, chat. I hope I'm doing well. It's like 11 p.m. here. I can see chat. Yeah, yeah. And I think this is Father Milk that messaged me. Yeah, Father Milk. I understand. Yeah, no, I truly do. I truly, truly understand. And yeah, reading your message right now, Father Milk, that's also my worry. Um, I VC with Netties 5 times a month for wellness checks and stuff. If if I were to leave, I'm afraid, and our team were to leave, I'm afraid that would happen.
Sorry about that.
Now you good?
So, if I may admit, I just lied to you, and I feel bad about it. There was nobody at my door. I really had to go pee. Dude, again, oh, I'm telling you,
Okay.
it's just not the same capacity to hold it in. So, yeah. So,
Okay.
tell me that wasn't perfect. See, NetE should just hire me. You know?
Become a caster.
I don't think. No, you know what? I feel like if I ever tried to become a caster, I'd be taken away from people who've been working very hard,
Yeah.
for many years. You
You
know.
you're a natural at it. Like you're so good at it.
No, 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 no. No, fucking Schmitty. No, what I mean is that would be incredibly. I've been gone. I've been gone for
No, no,
years.
I
You
understand.
know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that would.
but you're back now, so yeah.
Yeah, but the idea of taking someone else's spot that's been showing consistency and dedication to the community is something that I would probably feel uncomfortable with. Um, however, so you're talking about the uncertainty of rival. So Aaron, as your coach, is he going to retire too? If others retire, because it sounds like right now you guys don't really have a backup plan, and it's nice that you want to continue the legacy of before you and rival, but if the majority of the team leaves and retires, I don't see the purpose of continuing the name, right? It might be the time for it to just be done and open the, like if I was a player, I wouldn't want to be known under a different team name that I wasn't the original creator of when the majority of the team is gone, right? So if you guys lose 3 players and you have 2, is it really fair for the next generation to continue the name on when it's a good opportunity for them to make a name themselves, right? Like if you lose 1 player,
No, yeah, no, that makes a lot of
maybe
sense.
2 players, then it's like, all right, the Boston Red Sox is still the Boston Red Sox, but at what point do you get rid of the entire team and just allow the legacy to finish? And so is Aaron, as a coach, do you know where he's at? Is he going to retire with you all? Or do you think that he's going to try to prepare for the future? And if so, where's the evidence of such? Or are these survivors who are just wasting plenty of time right now trying to be your backups, not knowing if they'll ever be players when they could just go against you and get the exposure? Lots of questions. Sorry.
Yeah,
I got to
so
get better
that's a
at
good
that.
question. We were gonna retire this koa. This koa was gonna be our last. We hinted at it a lot. The person that wanted us to stick one more time was Roland. Roland got the team together, and now when I say that, people don't understand the importance of that. Roland doesn't talk. When Roland talks, it's heard. Like when Roland says something, it's so important that everyone just has to shut up. We could be having the worst fight of our life between each other. If Roland starts talking, both people just stop and like, wow, he's talking. So he's the reason we stuck together one more year, and then we got the rival opportunity. So it was even more like, wow, we actually after 5 years we made it, right? So Aaron, I'm pretty certain on what he's going to do. I have to again assume the worst for everyone. I think I have to say everyone's leaving at this point. Until not, because everyone was leaving last koa, and then IDV is like a leash, it or a fishing hook. It reels you back in. So people will say they're leaving, and then they like, I can't, not yet. So I have to see, but as of right now, one of them, yeah, that is leaving. So we have to see. I'm going to get on my knees for every person on the team. I'm going to get on my knees like one more year. That's going to happen, but we have to see.
It's a good, thorough answer. So what you're saying is that if I return as coach for a different team, I need to start preparing for next year for when all of y'all leave. Because I already
Or
know
you could just join our team.
I already know who I'd recruit, I think.
You're not Spencer. Not Spencer.
If you give me a year with blue race car, a full year with blue race car.
He's scary. Yeah, Blue was insane.
You give me a year with blue race car, get John Zhao, get him back. Let's see.
Yeah.
Jokey. I love Jokey.
Yo mama.
In all fairness, Jokey was a very good player with meme characters.
Yeah.
That guy was
just
fucking phenomenal.
He was the best person.
He's the only person that was able to. He was like the. He was like the, what is it? The runner with messages in between all of the clans, because he was the only one that all of us could stand. you give me blue race car. Let's see. I don't know where the survivors are. I'd probably get Call
Yo
Me.
mama can compete now.
I'd get Call Me Duty back. I'd get Cats. Cats, Call Me Duty. I would calm Cats down. He gets too aggressive. He's like that hyper fucking squirrel with the football ready to just go in. It's like, wait, hold back, wait, just for 1 second. Uh, I think that the future of Identity 5 with the NAEU community, I don't think that it's going to die if you guys disappear. I think that I think that there's actually benefits if you guys disappear, because it may actually encourage people to start competing seriously, because right now you all are the monsters that nobody can dethrone. It's just the reality of the situation. And in itself, I can understand why people don't want to go in the competition, because it's like, you guys have 5 years of experience. You guys disappear and would probably set the server back, but it might in the long run set it forward. But on the other hand, you all sticking together as of now is what we identify as keeping the server alive on a tournament competitive level. So I hope I said that respect. You see what I'm saying? How like that could go either way, right?
Talking to Schmitty, I get it.
Yeah, well,
Trust me, I
it's
get it.
important though that I try to be mindful when I'm talking, because I don't want to be one of them people that just gives you my opinion but then delivers it in a way where I could have been more respectful and mindful of the amount of energy and time and dedication that you have provided to the server. And so you said, Schmitty, that one of your priorities was the integrity in the future of the server, but everything that you have been mentioning is about rival. And so what are you doing personally as somebody who says they care about the server? And I know you do, and I know that you have been a fierce advocate for our server for 5 years. What are you going to consider in the future? In the worst case circumstance that people retire, are you just going to disappear like Persuadable and Game and Grizzly did? Or are you going to stick around for the next generation to continue helping a server in a different way as a possible coach one day?
Um, yeah. So let's say our team disbands, quit, yada yada. I don't see myself becoming a coach, because I don't think I could become a coach and be like I'll be like, I can still compete. Why am I coaching? Um, that's just my honest answer. Like I just couldn't do it. So if I did want to stay, I'd either become a caster, or I would just continue to have conversations with netties. I've done a very good job at keeping NA in touch with netties. I think we are now highly valued compared to other servers other than China and Japan, obviously. We got two COA teams, which is something that other servers don't have. We get two IVTs, which is something other servers don't have. So I think I've done a good job with that, and if I can continue to improve upon that, when we do finally leave, maybe we get three IVTs, maybe we get a pro league. I will continue to do so, and if that's even if it's small steps, I can do that, and I won't coach, but I can help. I can help teams to reach out. Like right now, I do help a lot of smaller teams. They reach out, they send me gameplay, and I critique it. I'm like, no, identify the ciphers here. This is how you do it. So I'm trying to help smaller teams. So hopefully in a year or two, maybe the teams I'm helping out now become the team that dethrone China and Japan. Who knows? So I am trying to help in every single way I can. And it's not just me; it's literally the entire team. We're doing our best to help in every single way we can, in every single aspect we can. So when we do eventually disband, I'm sure people like Paul, me, Spencer, Aaron, Roland, they won't just leave. They will continue to help and see the server prosper. So we don't go out like, where'd they go? No, we will help.
Have you I want you to go on public record right now to the entire Identity 5 community. And I want you to verify how fucking awful B4U was when I on our first practice as coach.
Oh yeah, we were bad.
Oh,
Especially
dude,
for
I was
Twitch.
I was losing my shit as oh my. I thought I was adopting an easy team. Like we got this
Oh
super
no.
team. AO disbanded, and then we got you, and we got everybody. And I remember our first practice, and I'm like, all right, guys, this is our first practice ever. Like, let's just do your best. And I remember you guys like crying from laughing because I was fucking losing it. I was
Yeah, we
losing
were
it.
bad.
I'm like, what am I looking at? Like, do you? I remember thinking in my head, I'm about to fucking remove all these people and just tell Blue Race Car to partner with me. And I wouldn't actually do that, obviously. But I remember the first practice, man. I'm like, this is going to be a long road. And I look back to it, though, about how much fun we had. And I want you to know that those were some of the shining moments of my Identity 5 career, because people see you guys and see everything that you have developed. And I remember how, are you still there, Schmitty? Yeah, you got your mic muted. You can
Yeah,
hear
yeah,
me.
no, I'm here. Yeah,
I remember how nervous I was handing the keys over when it was time for me to step down as coach to Aaron, just because at that point in time, um, we never lost a tournament. I think you guys, you guys lost that regional, but that was the one time I stepped away from the game, right? Is my memory correct? I was gone
yeah,
during that.
no, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So we never lost together on NAEU ever in the history. And then I stepped away for that one brief moment just because of my clinical duties. And you guys lost that regional. And I remember feeling so much shame because I felt like I really let the team down. And I let you guys down. And then you guys got me back. And then we went back to our normal pursuit. And I remember being nervous handing it over to Aaron, not because he was a good coach, or rather, not because I was worried about him being a good coach. Aaron is a very good coach, and that's why I felt comfortable handing that gauntlet over to him. But I remember being so nervous because I felt like I was handing my family over. You know, I was really sad about doing that. I didn't want to walk away from you guys. That was a really, really, really tough thing. And I remember for like a month I didn't even go on Discord. I just alienated myself because it was so hard for me to let go of you guys. And I'm very happy to see Aaron still around, and I'm happy that he's still working with you guys, and I'm happy that you guys are still together as a unit. Handing that over was really, really tough for me. You know, you lose yourself as a YouTuber, you lose yourself as a caster, you lose yourself as a player, and it's like every single role that I ever had that I spent years building up, I lost. And then you're ultimately, you know, I felt like Tom Hanks in The Castaway with that big old beard, just fucking like but in my story, I didn't even have a fucking volleyball to talk to. And I'm very happy that you guys are still together as a unit. And I really think that any issues that you guys have, you have to remember that you have gone through worse. And it's very, very easy to get stuck in that one moment of chaos and uncertainty. But when you look back at the bigger picture, you guys are going to be very happy that you spent all this time together. One thing that I regret is not spending time with you guys more over the past 2 or 3 years as I've been gone. And so I really hope that as you guys cope and problem solve, all you need to do is everything you've always been doing, right? Communicate with each other, talk with each other, and meet halfway. And you can't just say, oh, we're going to meet halfway, but then don't. There has to be accountability on both sides, right? Because I would never want that to happen as coach, right? There was never an issue that we never could resolve as a team, ever. We resolved every single one, right? So just because you have a bad kite, right, and that's kind of what you're going through right now, there's a little bit of a circumstance with a bad kite, doesn't mean that you just never play the game again. You know, you just go back to the roots, and the roots is communication, making sure people feel warm, doing your part, but then other people have to take accountability on their own individual selves. So I hope that you guys resolve that. I think that this should encourage the Identity 5 community, knowing that you guys are in chaos right now. And I say that jokingly. I don't actually mean chaos, but if I was a competitor, this is the time. This is a weak point. This is a little bit of a hole in your armor as a team. And if I was a competitive coach, I'd be forming something right now. Knowing that you guys are in turmoil, not to the point of destruction, but in the sense of you guys are tired. You're tired. You're fighting for the server. You know, this is something that other teams don't have to worry about. The Chinese teams don't have to worry about fighting for their server. Japan, other than competing, you have to worry about building the server. You have to compete with trying to make sure that there's more tournaments. So you got this extra burden as a team that other servers don't have to worry about because they naturally have these competitive environments. And I think it's okay as a team to realize that the circumstances that you guys are going through are stressful, and there's going to be times where you're on edge, and it's important that you guys come back together as a team and say, okay, everything that just happened was fucking silly. right? We're being silly right now. Like, what's going on? Like, we're all just stressed. Like if I was coach, I honestly at this point I'd probably fucking fly you all out together for a weekend, and actually like I'd go to that level. I'd go to that extent. I think, you guys have things that are going against you, and it's important that again you guys as a team remember that it's you against the issue. You guys are all supposed to use teamwork, and you got some stuff going on right now. I think that if I was an Identity 5 competitor, I'd be trying to recruit players right now. If you or in the sense of like Aaron as a coach, I don't know what he's going to do, but in my mind, I'd probably have like a JV version of you guys. Come back as a coach and start hiring the next generation. Learn from you, watch all your practices. In case you guys quit, you're not. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the importance of writing, right? If you're going to try to pass history down, people had to learn how to write and read. And if everything gets burned, then everybody has to start all over again, right? It's kind of crazy. We still don't know how the pyramids were built, even with all of our technology. And so if the priority is the server, and I know it has been for the last 5 years, I strongly recommend you all trying to do something about that where we don't just leave the server hanging, because if that's the case, it's taken us 5 years of fighting aggressively with NetEase to get us more opportunities. And if we don't make sure that we leave breadcrumbs for the next generation in the worst case scenario of you all disappearing or splintering up, then we really don't, we're not doing a service to our server. So we can't say we care about the server and not care for it in its full entirety. And we're very aware that we're in a very vulnerable moment in the history of NAEU. And I would strongly urge you to be mindful of that, because you can't say you care about the server and while simultaneously not worry about that. If that makes sense. Is that fair of me to say, or am I being hyperbolic? Am I dichotomizing this as black and white?
No, that's true. No, I agree.
So it would be a tragedy for you all to retire. Well, you said that a few of your players want to quit. Why?
Real life, whether it's like school amping up, or they're finally getting a job that requires too much time. That would be the reason.
Right. So if the way that I look at it from a competitive standpoint, and I know that you can't get into personal details about people. I hope my leg quits. Sick of that little punk constantly making fun of me, calling me George Washington. Persuade. Do you have a stopwatch? Is that a thing? Do you know how to use a cell phone? Fucking. So if he quits, I don't care. No, I'm just kidding. I actually messaged him on Discord to reach out. I'm trying to reach out to all of the older players. So I really don't understand how do you simultaneously fight NetEase to try to have more competitions and tournaments, but then at the same time saying, well, we think we're going to quit anyways. If I'm NetEase now, right? And now I'm going to defend them a little bit, right? I'm trying to be fair. I'm not an expert interviewer, okay? So I don't really know what I'm doing. But if I'm NetEase, why the fuck am I going to invest in the server now when the stars are going to go? Or the stars don't know if they're going to go?
Because you have to invest in new stars. Why invest into a server if one team is just going to be there? I mean, we're the oldest team. We're the only team that's stuck this long at any region, at anywhere. We're the only team. And even let's just say, theoretically speaking, we had absolutely no obligations. How long do we play? We're getting older. It's been 5-6 years now, going on 7 next year. When is it time to be like, it's been so long? Because we've sacrificed so much. that like I would be like in my third year of med school by now if I had no IDV. Um, a lot of people would have their degree. Like one of the people who wants to quit is pushing for a degree. So at what point are we like, okay, we have to just like step back? That's the question we are processing and trying to handle. And no, and with that being said, we have no regrets, none regrets whatsoever. If I was still a sophomore in my bachelor degree, I would still be fine because I love doing this, and I don't intend to retire next year anyway. But at what point do we be like, it's been enough? Like we've been doing this forever. So
Do you think, may I ask you a very difficult question? Okay.
yeah.
Do you think that with your spotlight and the amount of attention that you received over the years, do you think that you're ready from an ego standpoint to step away from everything? You know, like Gabe and Grizzly vanished, focused on his family and his kids. Persuadable vanished. You know, walking away is not easy. Yet you have an inclination of constantly wanting to come back because positive attention is good attention, right? So you get all this attention for a very long time. When you step away, you don't have that attention anymore. There's actually, I really recommend people looking up right now, if you can YouTube, a song called Car Radio. And the concept of the song is that the gentleman's radio broke and it's driving him insane because he's only stuck with his own thoughts. He's by himself. He can't use music as a distraction anymore. So he rides in this car with no music and he has to confront those thoughts. Being the center of attention for so long, I know a lot of you are tired, and I know like somebody like my leg wouldn't care, right? Like I know how he is, and I know Roland wouldn't care. But you're more in the spotlight like Game and Grizzly and I were. You know, you like that attention a little bit. And I don't mean in a negative way, right? It's only a problem if somebody does negative things for attention. And that's not your style. So you don't like all types of attention. You like that positive attention. So you're like mild hot sauce. You know, you like a little bit of a tang, but you're not gonna go crazy with it. But you do like a little bit of attention. Anybody that's in front of a camera likes attention. I'm doing it right now. I love attention. I don't like bad attention though. I wouldn't compromise myself and my integrity and my morals for attention. And some YouTubers and stuff do that outside of Identity 5. So with that being said, you've received a lot of positive attention. And the team, I can see Paul Blum's, he likes attention too, so I can see him going into streaming. I can see my leg disappear and he don't give a shit. Roland, he don't give a shit either. I can see Sprinter not giving a shit, but you specifically, do you think that you would actually be able to handle walking away from the spotlight fully?
I
Honestly,
mean, I love it.
don't do the
No,
PC. Don't do the PC. I
no,
really
no
want I
PC.
really want your answer.
I've thought about that, and that's why, like you, again, this isn't a PC answer, and people don't understand. Persuade has influenced my life a lot. Um, so when he wanted to branch out into other genres, I did too. So I do cooking. I have a cooking channel, and I've gotten a few videos that have hit 1 million views, and hopefully I can keep up with that. So when I do leave IDV, hopefully I can leave IDV and med school to pursue my cooking. So I'm going to start taking that very seriously this upcoming December, along with IDV. So maybe my cooking can take off. I already have I already have a team trying to help me with cooking, and so the spotlight will just shift. I'll leave IDV for another spotlight. So I think I'll be fine. The problem isn't going to be leaving. The problem is going to be not wanting to come back. Because I'll leave and then focus on cooking. Hopefully that does something so I can finally leave med school and focus on cooking, be a cooking YouTuber and whatnot, and then maybe do IDV on the side. Because if I just do 2 hours a day of IDV, I can do anything, right? So I'm leaving one spotlight for another, but I have a lot to grow on cooking. So for now, I can't say no. I can't say yes. I could leave because I love doing this.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'7".
Yeah, so every time you say some shit about how you want to grow, somebody who's 5'9", you can go fuck yourself. Don't watch my stream last night. I was talking massive amounts of shit about you. I was talking about how I can understand why women like men who are 6 feet or taller, because I had to go on my tippy toes to put this fucking green screen up, and I'm reaching up there like this, like a child, and I'm like, you know what? I understand it now. I get it. Yeah, I can't reach it. You know what I mean? Like I get. What are we both gonna have a step stool? So it sounds like you have a plan to eventually navigate. You don't know when that's going to happen. You have numerous players who say they're going to quit, and you have numerous players who say that they're gonna, go forward. So, have you ever considered navigating to a different video game competitively?
Competitively, no. I was semi-pro in Call of Duty. That drained me, and then I'm pro in IDV. That's draining me. I mean, what game can I go pro in at this age?
Fucking Roblox.
It's very. They don't even. Do they even have a pro scene?
First of all, don't be laughing, okay? Roblox is a respectable, competitive game, Schmitty.
Yeah. Show me the pro teams, and then I'll agree.
Okay. All right.
What was that? Block Simulator or something? Some city simulator.
How about you win a fucking match in Koa before you talk about pro gameplay?
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane.
I absolutely applaud your ability to take that. That was good. So okay. So with the tournaments in mind, I plan on having a tournament in 3 weeks. A big tournament.
Yes.
With many special guests. I'm trying to get Cats to commentate for 30 minutes. It's going to be Eli and I. I'm trying to get Roxon to drop in for 30 minutes. I'm trying to get Happy Dog to drop in for 30 minutes. I'm trying to get a hold of Game and Grizzly. Can't get there. The top 5 teams are going to win $125 as a team, so $25 each. So as long as you make the top 5, you make money. I'm not going to do a winner makes all, none of that. Do you have any, because I've been scoping the streams. I've been stalking all of you. I've been stalking you. And I'm really pleased with the content creators. I actually think that the content creators these days are contributing to a more positive community than what my days were, including myself. And that's a compliment to people like Hikaru, all of them. They're doing a better job at maintaining a more safe, warm environment. I feel like during our generation, we were like the Attitude Era of WWE, the Stone Cold Austin, Steve Austin, the Rock, the Triple H.
Well, the difference between us and now is like the big streamers back then were the competitive ones, like number 1 on the leaderboard, number 3 on the leaderboard, fighting for spots. The top streamers now are like more casual, like
that might be a good thing for the
mid-tier.
community.
No, yeah, it is. It definitely is because the viewer can relate more with them. Like the average viewer can't relate to the first survivor in the server try-harding against every hunter.
Right. And I also think that trying to provide the mental health support is important for our competitive players, because it's important for like people like me who genuinely could get so fucking mad, salty. Now, mind you, I never said anything mean outside of the game, but I'd be like, "Oh, your ripper was." I talk shit to you when you missed a flare gun. What did I
Yeah,
say
that
to you?
is true.
What did I say to you?
He sent me like a 16-second voice message about how I need to get off the game, and if you're gonna be playing in the rank match, don't be missing flare guns.
Right. And how did that make you feel?
I was like actually sad because the thing is, right? The thing is, I saw you were like the only non-Chinese top player at the time. So I was like reaching out to you, hoping like, oh my gosh, I can become friends with this guy. I'm trying to become the best. Maybe I think I messaged you like 30 times. And then the first message I got back was a shit talk voice message.
Right.
So I was like, oh my gosh, the person I idolized at the time in the game just shit talked me.
Right.
So that made me sad. I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
Yeah,
And
that
and
made me
and
sad.
and, and there's no reason for you to laugh when you say that right now. That's like a defense
Yeah,
mechanism. Because
no,
that's
no. Look at I laugh now because our relationship
right.
now. That's what's
But
funny.
like at the
If
end
we
of the
didn't have a relationship, I wouldn't laugh.
yeah, right. And at the end of the day, that's not appropriate, right? Because there's a difference between. I mean, in all fairness, there's people who say extremely nasty things like "oh, jump off a bridge." Like I don't say that stuff to people, but I still made you feel sad, and with all of my real life interactions, I would never say that to somebody, right? So in my mind, being salty like that is not it's not appropriate. And now for some people that may be a vanilla comment, but at the end of the day, like I made you feel sad. We're 6 years later, Schmitty. That still makes me feel terrible, right? And so I think the big thing with competitive gameplay is making sure that we remind people to take a break and to not act like that. That's why I'm bringing this up. You're not bringing this up on live feed. I'm bringing it up. I'm holding myself accountable. And I looked at that and I'm like, that's not how I want to act. And obviously, me and you became good friends, but I also did the same thing with Paul Blooms. I talked shit to him too. And I contributed to that environment. It doesn't make it excusable. It's that we have to hold each other accountable. We have to, at some point, we got to stop blaming the community and look at our individual selves and say, how do we improve, right? And my inclination, my first instinct is to make excuses, right? Oh, I was stressed or I was this or that. But that's all counterintuitive. It's not productive to trying to grow because in real life, I would never talk like that to a person. And that's when I realized like this game is starting to change my personality. That's when I started to realize I need to step away as a competitive player as well as my clinical duties. And so that's not appropriate. And I also did the same thing with like Paul Blooms. And what people don't realize is that during that time, in the beginning of Identity 5, we were actually, all of the top players were relatively within a reasonable behavior with one another. Everybody was pretty much on the Identity 5 in the Persuadable server. And then we all started to splinter out. You had the Blue Race Car community, you had the iAlien community. But before all that, that all was just the one community. We were relatively warm together. And when that happened, that's when we all like were just part of the problem, right? Like, in all fairness, all of our shit talk was always in game. But it still made you feel sad. Now, some people go fucking way beyond the game, but maybe I'm making
people are insane.
yeah, but you missed a single fucking flare gun. Why am I so mad that you go out of your way to send a message over post chat like I did, right? And that's part of the reason where I looked at it and I'm like, Identity 5, everybody, I think that it's very kind that the community has a favorable opinion of me. But like when I look at during those times, when I think of that, I look at it as I went from somebody who didn't have a YouTube at the time to growing way too fast, losing a whole bunch of patients from COVID, and then also constantly having a shift between being a player, then being a caster. Nobody taught me how to be a caster. And then constantly feeling like you have to cling on to being a good player. It becomes your identity, and then it's hard to let go, and then you're constantly transferring between being a player to being a caster. And then that was easy money, being a caster. I've never exposed this publicly, but I'll say it now for the first time in my career. I think NetEase paid me like $3,000 to go to Koa 2 for a weekend, and a bunch of other incentives. They paid me a lot of money to go to there as a shoutcaster, and they were pleased with our shoutcasted, and they guaranteed me my future. And I stepped away from that because I wanted to coach NAEU to help our server. Because I was ashamed of how I could act at times about not being able to handle losing. And I feel like at that point in time, that community, the Identity 5 community, it was really tough. It was really competitive. All of us were just tough. And nobody wanted to take accountability. And so I look at that, and obviously I think I did a lot of great things for the community, but I look at that and everyone's like, oh, Persuadable, he did all this and all that. And it's like, you guys need to understand that I look at that as some of the worst moments of my life, right? Between the stress of not understanding how to be a content creator, the stress of losing patience in real life. Like we weren't even family members weren't even allowed to come and watch their loved ones die. So it had to be me and nursing, right? In the nursing homes, you weren't allowed in. And I didn't know how to cope with that. And I was alone, and I didn't know what I was doing. And so now I look at myself and I'm like, you guys saw me at my unhealthiest moment of my life and you still think I was an okay person. Imagine what I can do now actually being healthy and of the right mind, right? And so that's why I clung to people like Game and Grizzly, because he helped regulate me, right? And I don't think I was toxic all the time. Don't get me wrong. I'm being a little harsh on myself. I think that might have been the only rude thing I ever sent to you. But still, I beat myself up for it because it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, that message was rude. It wasn't correct. I did the same thing with Paul Blooms. I talked shit to him after the match because he kited my ripper. I was pissed at him. I did the same thing with Roxon. I talked shit to Roxon too. But I think the reason that you all respected me as a player is because I never went beyond the game. I never went, but at the same time, I looked at myself and I'm like, I'm still not happy. I don't want to be this type of guy. You know, I don't want to be this type of guy that's toxic. And it was a learning curve. And so if there's any Identity 5 YouTube streamers out there, you got to know when to take a break. And I think the best thing that was for me, Schmitty, was having friends like you. And I think once I stopped being a competitive player, I relaxed. That was around maybe, I think, season 1. Okay, all right. In all fairness, all right, I'm going to be honest, dude. You were missing so many fucking flare guns. I mean, you were missing a lot of flare guns. Dude, in every match, you were missing your fucking flare gun. And we're in the top 15. We got fucking people cheating against us. I get Schmitty. I get excited because I can finally talk to another player. And your bitch, flare gun miss.
I would get so much anxiety when I matched with you. I would be like, Mom, don't talk to me right now. I have to like actually try hard. And then I'd start sweating, and then I would miss a flare gun, and then I'd be like, oh my gosh, I would be so embarrassed because I was so bad.
I mean, you were good at shooting walls and trees.
I was the best at it.
Give me 1 second. But anyways, so just for the sake of transparency, this wasn't just a bad match from Schmitty. Not that it excuses myself. This was a culmination of like a week of bad matches with Schmitty. I was so pissed. But it was also season 1.
I remember just sending you like, you would send me like a voice message. I would then send like 10 voice messages, like hoping you'd explain to me. And then I'd get 1 voice message back. And then I'd send 10 more. And then I would try to match you. And then I would also like try to not match you because I didn't want the stress of getting you in my match.
Let me tell you something. That's when I realized, I was like, man, I'm getting too into this, man. Like, I'm glad that we can laugh at it, you know, all these years later. But at the same time, I'm just like, that was sort of the behavior that everybody was doing behind the scene. You're gonna tell me you never wrote some shit in post chat to people, right?
No, no,
And
I was gonna say that the environment back then,
it was tough,
everyone was
dude.
just shit talking everyone.
It's
It's
fucking
like
awful.
you doing like I was gonna be like devil's advocate. I was gonna defend you. You doing that, yeah, but literally, people don't understand. Everyone did that. Like literally, everyone did that. It was like kill or be killed in season one. So like you doing that, it was just part of the environment. Like you remember Dockman, he did that. Um,
Fuck.
Liz, Liz Flower did that. I mean, everyone was going for everyone's throat in season one. So it's just like,
I don't think I know a single top player. Legacy actually. Legacy was probably the only top player in Yo Mama. Actually,
yeah,
no,
Yo
that's
Mama
not.
did not.
Actually, that's not true. No, Yo Mama did that.
Really?
Yeah, what he would do. So for those that don't know, there was a It was my teammate. Yo Mama was one of the top survivors during that season. Yo Mama is one of the best survivors of all time, and that was my
Yeah.
That was my partner, and me and him were in the top 10 in season 1 and 2. And but no, Yo Mama, Yo Mama wouldn't write anything. He would just do the in-game emotes. He was the one that probably started that trend in high tier.
The dancing.
He did
I
the
remember the
fucking
magician
dancing, dude.
dance too.
Yeah, dude, he would just fucking emote right over you. And he started doing it at the exit gate, and I'd be like, "Yo, Mama, what are you doing?" And he's like, "You're the one that writes stuff sometimes. I'm the one that just doesn't." And I was like, "All right, I ain't got an argument." He started emoting at the gate. He started that trend with the fucking forward. He started. Yo,
I
Mama
remember
started
that.
that. Yeah.
I remember
So
that.
but it was a tough environment because then but at the same time we dedicated so much time to teaching the players how to play. I mean, every single day we're going on Discord in season 1 and 2, and we're just this is before we really were doing YouTube, and we were just trying to get as many players to be as good as possible. We were giving all of our secrets, all of our advice. But during that season 1, there was a top clan named Nori, and they were cheating because they owned the leaderboard. They had like 10 of the top 20 survivors, and they were pissed at Yo Mama, me, Legacy. They were pissed at Schmitty that we were taking up leaderboard spots. So what they would do is they would intentionally partner up with their hunters in rank mode and then throw our matches. And it was getting really frustrating. That's why it was so stressful, because it's like, you get 3 matches of these teams purposely throwing because they know that you're in the lobby, so they go for a tie. And then I finally get a match with Schmitty after doing 30-minute rounds of just waiting. And then over and over, Schmitty's trying to learn a new character. He's failing. And then you're pissed. It's not even like, oh, you had a bad match. Like, it was the environment. And then that's when I came out with that famous exposure video showing that Inori was cheating. And then eventually the biggest clan in the whole game disbanded because of the turmoil internally. And they hate me. They hate me to this day. But I called them out, and I'm like, dude, like, you're making me super stressed. Like, I climbed to the top of the leaderboards. You're throwing my matches, and then it's unfair for people like you who just want to play the game, but you're still a top 20 player. And then you go and you miss a flare gun, and it was way more than just you missing a flare gun. It was way more than just, it was that stress of just, I just had these idiots throw 3 of my matches for a tie, so I can't climb up the leaderboard, and then you have an innocent mistake for a week straight. And I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm just literally joking. And that's when I realized.
No, it's funny because it's true.
Yeah, but like I mean, me and you understand those circumstances. I'm actually glad that we're ragging on myself right now, but there's context to that, and that's why when we were talking about your current clan rival, that's why I'm asking you, is this a product of a player in their environment? Because during that time, like, I spoke to you in a way that I wish I didn't, but you look at that environment that we were in, and I look back at it, I'm like, you couldn't pay me enough to go back into that. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Like that was, and of course, like obviously, me and you become best friends, and problems we become best friends and everything, and we all know the competitive nature of the game. But like, my God, during that generation, dude, was awful. It was bad. Like I remember we could go a week without even writing in post chat and just leaving instantly just so we wouldn't contribute to it. And then you just get that one day where you're like, I'm so sick of all this shit talk after a week. And you write one little tiny thing like, your hunter sucks or whatever like that. And then all of a sudden it's this big ordeal on Discord. And it's like, what about all the fucking matches of you talking shit? You know what I mean? Like poking the bear. I realized, oh, dude, I learned early in my career just stop posting in post chat, man. Like at the end of the day, I'm a grown man. I should be in charge of my own emotions, and I'm responsible for my own actions. And so to get back to the original thing we were talking about, I look at this new generation of streamers. I see like Hikaru, I see that Z Von person. I see
Yeah, Z.
I see all of these folks, and I go in their chats and I stalk them because I'm a creeper at 34 years old, and I'm very pleased to see. What I've learned about some of the baby boomers, and I'm going to be honest with you, is I don't understand them because they'll be like, well, back in my day, we had to walk 10 miles for a glass of water. And it's like, good for you. So you're pissed off that you helped make it easier for your next generation, right? Like you should always hope that the next generation after you are doing better. And they don't have the same obstacles you did. That doesn't make them inferior, and it doesn't make them weak. It means that you help contribute to an environment where they wouldn't do the things that you did, right? Like that's the whole purpose of education and learning. And so I see these new streamers, and I think that I think Identity 5 as a whole benefits from them. I think that they're doing a way better job than what we were doing. I think that they're contributing to a much more friendly environment than what we were doing. And I think that the only reason why people have a favorable opinion of me is because I was very vanilla compared to the toxicity. But if I were to compare myself now to the current streamers, I'd probably be more of that toxic one of yelling and screaming on rank mode and whatnot. I was vanilla during a generation of Diablo hot sauce, and I feel like the current streamers now they're doing a better
Yeah.
job at regulating themselves, and they should be proud of that. I think that they're smarter than us. I do. I think that they have more social awareness than what you and I did and what the generation did. Again, you and I were very vanilla compared to that environment, but still, like, at the end of the day, we contributed to it. All high tier players did, and I think that the only way that the environment improves is that's why towards the later years of my Identity 5, like after season 2, I was like, fuck this, dude. I hate my behavior. And that's why I turned more positive, because I was aware of my contribution to that environment. And I can blame the environment, but at the end of the day, I don't like that. I feel weak. I want to be in control of my own behavior and my own self. So that's the only reason why I turned positive, is because I was like, fuck this, man. I hate the way that I'm turning out. I can't even say good game to a player that beat my ass. Are you kidding me? That's embarrassing. At least you don't play coordinator anymore, though. But either way, I mean, bygones be bygones. So, Schmitty, I have another question for you. So we have this tournament coming up. Who do you want to see? So I'm trying to make sure that everybody tries to compete. I'd like all the YouTubers and the content creators to compete, and I'd like some of the retired content creators to come for 30-minute interval slots. Eli and I are going to be commentating, and then in 30-minute slots, I'd like to try to invite people like Happy Dog, people like Roxon, people like Cats007. Who would you like to see in a guest appearance? Because I expect you to be competing.
Are we talking casting wise?
For those 30-minute intervals, who would you like to see make a guest appearance?
I think number one on my list would be Roxon. Roxon sounds like that's a brilliant idea, and I know he'd do it.
Yeah. I've reached out to Roxon. I reached out to Call Me Duty. I reached out to. I'm trying to see if I can get a hold of some other players. Trying to get a hold of Gaming Grizzly, like I said.
Getting a hold of Grizzly is going to be hard.
Good. Hey, he's where I was at. I don't blame him. He's enjoying life.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
All right. Well, Schmitty, I want to say I thank you for your time. I thank you for your ability to be extremely honest during this interview. I think that's a strong quality of yours. You didn't just give us non-answers, and I appreciate that. And I think it's time to end this interview so we don't drag it out. We've been doing this for 2.5 hours, and
That's insane.
we've had a 2.5 hour conversation about the history of all this. So um, I feel happy being back. I hope that you return to streaming. I'm going to be trying to stream a lot with problems as well. And come by on Roblox anytime you want. And eventually I'll be playing some Identity 5. But my God, I'm going to be very angry for a long time, but we'll work on that. So I want to thank the viewers. I want to thank the viewers for sticking along with us. I want to applaud Schmitty for being completely honest and also taking accountability on your end about where you're at and where the team is at. I think that's a strong quality. I think that practices a lot of humility where you can be vulnerable like that. And I have confidence that you guys will be able to figure this all out. So on that note, we're going to end this stream. I might be on stream a little bit later on playing different video games. And I would like to thank all the viewers once again. And I hope that you all have a good evening. And maybe we'll see you. Okay? So with that being